Lagos Assembly resumes plenary 1 week after its special parliamentary session. House Committee on Energy continues oversight functions as it deals with issues affecting the state. Plus, Southwest Progressives Youth storm Lagos Assembly, clamoring for better title for the national leader of the All Progressives Congress. We'll also bring you highlights from the Lagos at 50 celebrations as the state wraps up its activities on the occasion. A warm welcome to you out there. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on Lagos Parliament. This is where you get to follow the activities of your representatives in the Lagos State House of Assembly. I am a host, Abimbola Agbebi. Welcome again.
Get closer to your legislators. See them in action as they deliberate on moving the state forward. Watch updates on weekly events, presentation of bills, passage of laws, adoption of resolutions, and many more. Also, get a chance to meet the lawmaker of the week and watch the legislators. Observe plenary in Yoruba language. Lagos Parliament, every Thursday 7:30 p.m. and Sunday 11 a.m. respectively on TVC News Nigeria and TVC Entertainment. Lagos Parliament, bringing the legislators closer to you.
Welcome back. Now, 1 week after the Lagos State House of Assembly held a special parliamentary session in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the state, normal activities have resumed at the House. Let's take you to the floor of the House for the deliberations at plenary.
When His Excellency, Mr. Akim Yambode, raised the issue and get the contract signed, as in the construction of the 4th Mainland Bridge, the vast majority of Lagosians were so happy, very happy, to the extent that my ombudsman was also happy, and I think that is good for Lagos. Quite unfortunate, last week I read through mainstream media, mainstream tabloid, that goodwill contract has been cancelled. That is a source of concern to me and to the vast majority of my constituents. And I think moving forward that there's a need for us to look into this and let's know what the issues are and let's see how we can get those issues resolved.
The 4th Mainland Bridge is a great project that has attracted the expectation of millions of Lagosians who voted our government into power. It was one of the cardinal promises of our dear governor when he was campaigning to be elected into office. I also read it in the papers, and I was a little bit worried. While commending the giant strides of our governor and all his achievements in the space of the 2 years that has been in office, I think this project is one big one that will go a long way to also sell not only his own image, but the image of our party. We all know that the 4th Mainland Bridge is a project that is very important, that Lagosians are expected to ease traffic gridlock that we have always experienced along that axis. And when we heard about the cancellation, like Mr. Speaker rightly tried to observe, reasons were given about the non-chalant and forthcoming attitude of the contractor. And it was also said that as soon as competent hands are found, the project will be back on stream. But I think it's good that it is raised here so that our government will know that Lagosians are expectant of this important project. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether I could also mention something that is also a little bit related to that. The issue of the Smart City Project agreement with Dubai. Our government signed that agreement. And, well, I know that 2 honorable members were present at the signing of the agreement in Dubai, Honorable Lanre Oshun and Honorable Fama Kinwa. The details of that agreement is still very sketchy and unavailable to the entire House. I don't know. And I think some of these issues should really be brought open before the House. I think the Attorney General should brief the House, give adequate information so that we are all on the same page together. We are all concerned about the development of our state, and we will do everything to support our government to succeed in that direction.
The issue of the Mainland Bridge premised on a very huge amount of money. That is about 844 billion naira contract. And it was on the 36-kilometer length of bridge, that we read on the pages of newspaper, precisely on that of Vanguard 23rd of May, just like anybody. And the concern, a lot of people have been asking me, in particular, various questions, that you have PPP under your office. You should be able to give us details about the contract. But it's always, mystery that I don't really have any knowledge of it. I called on the PPP office. All what they told me is that they don't have knowledge of this information as well, and that I should go to the Lagos Global, so that they can be able to provide information. But you could see some information coming from the Office of the Commissioner for Waterfront, another one from the PS Works and Infrastructure, and you cannot actually pin this information to just one particular ministry, or even us as a house. We have not been properly briefed. I think there is need for us to really have insight of all this information. It's a very laudable project. It's good for the Lagosian. It's good for the business, as mentioned by Honorable Famakinwa and Honorable Guyemi. Yes, we should seem to have been supporting this because, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to really recall the issue concerns the Mainland Bridge. When the arrangement was going on and the House was not totally in the whole matter, eventually, just single person took them to court, and they won there because there is no legal backing for that act. So all these type of things, we need to really get into it and know details. My own view is that the Commissioner, the Attorney General, the Commissioner for Waterfront, the Commissioner for Finance, and the Lagos Global, they should all be invited to really brief us to know what is going on about this project.
The law of the states says that if there's going to be any PPP, it needs to be made by the House, it needs to be sanctioned by the House, it needs to be approved by the House. As far as I know, because this was actually, this morning, funnily, I didn't even know Honorable Famakinwa would be raising it. This morning I came to your office, I was coming to discuss something on this with you, when unfortunately I met you getting ready to come to the chamber, so I couldn't really discuss it. On a very serious note, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to look at this. There is no way, this is a project of over 800 billion, and if anything goes wrong, if the state is taken to court, it will come back to the House. The legal backing of any project done by the executive is done by this House. And in a case where members of this House are now being asked of what is happening, of projects being done by the government, and we can't even answer any question, then I think there's a problem. We are part of the same government, and we want to approve this project, but we should know. Like Honorable Guyemi said, that the smart city, well, I was at that signing, yes, Honorable Guyemi. Thank you for telling the whole world that I was there. But seriously, I was at the signing. The Attorney General signed for the states, but that is all I know. The full information was not given.
You didn't tell us anything. Where you are there, the house is there. So why are you complaining?
Well, I'm not complaining. Honorable Guyemi raised it. And I went there to represent the House because I was actually there to represent Mr. Speaker.
Since you were there, we should agree that the House has done its own bit of the, what is it called, exercise.
No, sir. Mr. Speaker, I was chosen to accompany the governor to Dubai. And it was when we got there that I realized what we were there for. A laudable project, I agree, sir. Because what we were showed. But on a very serious note, on the issue of this Mainland Bridge, in as much as I totally concur that it's a good project, but like Honorable Ogundimu said, we need to be briefed. And I think the Attorney General should even accompany those you listed to come and brief us on this.
All right.
But we need to know so that when we are asked outside, we can say we know what's happening with the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In 2011, which is the Public-Private Partnership Law, and established an office called the PPP Office, and domiciled all forms of agreement, joint venture, etc., to that office. And it requires the ratification of this House in whatever the office does. The fourth Mainland Bridge that we've just mentioned, which is supposed to be 844 billion, as Honorable Gudimu mentioned, there are some, I believe there are some assets of states that will also be pledged, especially when you're doing PPP. This is unknown to this House. If you have almost ₦1 trillion being the value of a project, what level of state asset is being pledged to such project? So I know maybe His Excellency has not been properly briefed or informed in this matter. There are several other PPPs going on. The one on the reclamation of land is there. The one on boats, there are some companies coming into Nigeria with respect to construction of boats in Lagos State. The one on environment is also there. So we have a lot of PPP arrangement that is being gone that the House is not aware. So I think what Honorable Gudimu suggested, which is that the appropriate officers be invited for a discussion, I want to support. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I know that a particular section of that law stipulates that I'm now paraphrasing, stipulates that there shouldn't be any agreement on PPP signed by the state without it being presented foremost before the House of Assembly. If this had been done, Mr. Speaker, I am sure that all the issues being raised, the modalities, the funding, and other issues will have been debated by the House, and it will have come to the knowledge of everybody what are the inherent provisions of this agreement. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that aside from the fourth Mainland Bridge, the House needs to emphasize strict compliance with that section of the PPP Law 2015 of Lagos State. That will make it impossible for any agreement to be entered into, not to talk of executing the contract without the terms and conditions first and foremost brought before the House of Assembly, discussed by the House of Assembly, and approved by the House of Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The government can enter into negotiation with partners with hope to formalize. And most times when you read some things, information from our newspapers, at times you need to find out properly to know the extent, because we have seen people being quoted out of context. And for me, I'm sure the executive would not embark on such project without informing the House or without complying with the provisions of the law that we have made in this House. I'm sure we have an Attorney General that is up to date and who is competent enough to inform and advise the executive accordingly. So I read about the fourth Mainland Bridge stuff, and also the smart city, but I strongly believe when the time comes, they will surely, the executive will surely come to seek approval of this House. A law is a law. It doesn't matter where the law is made or who is to observe the law. And we must learn how to respect our own law, because if we fail to respect law, no one will respect other laws that we have passed. And even people on the street will not have confidence in anything we do. So we must live or lead by example, by showing that we ourselves respect the law of this state. And I'm sure nothing of such has taken place as I said earlier on. So we will call, I agree with Honorable Gudimu that we should invite those who we believe are to be in charge of such projects, like the Attorney General, who is the law officer of the state, Commissioner for Finance, and who is the Commissioner for Waterfront, and Chairman Lagos Global. Now we should invite them. So we'll wait for their briefing. After the briefing, we can now establish the fact behind this issue. Then we can now take position. So we, at least to speed up the activity, we set up a maybe form another committee to look into this matter. As we can't bring them to the floor, we don't really have that luxury of time to bring them to the floor of the House.
Now, in the light of the current electricity issues confronting Nigeria, Lagos is trying its best to get out of the quagmire. These and other revelations emerged during the visit of the Lagos State House of Assembly Committee on Energy to the State Ministry of Energy Resources on oversight function. The meeting between officials of the State's Ministry of Energy Resources and the House of Assembly Committee on Energy was quite revealing. The House Committee had visited the Ministry for the review of its budget performance and its activities for the first quarter of the year 2017. Various departments under the Ministry gave quite impressive reports of their activities in the period under review. In the area of solid mineral resources, clay and limestone were said to have been discovered in Badagry and Ekpe communities, which the state government believes is good for revenue generation. Touching other sectors such as oil and gas, the lawmakers dwelt more on the issue of electricity when the ministry unveiled its plans to come up with what it tagged Embedded Power Initiative.
The first question I have is on the embedded power, because I know the Constitution has said some things about power, the extent of the powers of the House of Assembly vis-a-vis generation of power, distribution of power, vis-a-vis national grid.
The state is looking to generate its own power, not minding the challenges associated with the national grid.
Power is a very major issue in Nigeria today. And at the federal level, we have challenges. The first major challenge is the national grid, because even if it generates 10,000 megawatts today, the grid cannot carry it. And it's very expensive to upgrade the grid and give it capacity. Then the second issue is that there is not enough generation because we have a gas challenge. So for Lagos State, within the context of the NERC regulations on embedded power, we want to play in that embedded power game and be able to power our economy as much as possible, most of them off-grid.
Having addressed other issues raised, the House Committee is optimistic about the ministry's ideas of tackling the state power issues, among other things.
See, it is a very creative and innovative idea where the ministry has come up to see how they can put together the embedded power for Lagos State. It will be the first of its kind, and I'm sure what you would find out, what we found out in the committee is that they are working with the necessary ministries, federal, state government, and to make sure that they come back to the House and make sure that this sails through in a very proper manner.
The lawmakers charged the ministry to be on its toes in ensuring that monies allocated to it are judiciously used. Now, a group of protesters known as Southwest Progressives Youth and People's Movement recently stormed the Lagos State House of Assembly, calling for a restructuring of the APC zoning system. The protesters, who carried banners and placards with various inscriptions, say it is not too much to have the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the chairman of the party's board of trustees. Citing the various roles played by Tinubu, the group says it deserves more than the title of the national leader of the party. The protesters were received by the lawmakers, who thanked them for their peaceful conduct.
We are here to tell the whole world that we are dissatisfied. APC has not given the right position the due compensation to our own leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu Jagaban. They are referring to him as national leader. To us here, the way people see it, we are not seeing it that way. The zoning system in the APC structure has not been duly followed because the Senate president came from the north, is from the north, the speaker from the north, secretary to government of information from the north, chief executive officer of the nation, that I'm talking about President Muhammadu Buhari, also came from the north. Now, in the constitution of APC, what is the role of the national leader? There's nothing like that there. But the issue of the BOT chairman is what we feel can make him perform excellently and make sure this party is put into shape.
You can see what he has done so far, and at the same time, he, Asiwaju, trying to fight for the emancipation of the black race and Nigeria as a whole. We have to give him his honor. We want them to give Asiwaju the BOT chairman.
Yes, sir!
You are here not because you are sponsored here.
Yes.
You are here because of what you believe in. Your view is our view. We represent your position.
Thank you, sir.
We thank you.
We say a big thank you to you for your thoughtfulness, for your ingenuity, for your intuitiveness to think out this laudable idea of coming out to allow the whole world of the importance, the importance of Asiwaju in Nigerian politics.
As activities marking the 50th anniversary of Lagos finally come to an end, some lawmakers are still talking about the success story shared by the states.
It's worth celebrating when you see the astronomical improvement that Lagos has done over the years and the wonderful record Lagos has given as a landmark area in Nigeria and, you know, in Africa. I think it's worth celebrating. The fact that we're not where we were 50 years ago, which is so much that you can say for so many other states. It also creates the yardstick upon which a lot of developmental things are happening in states. So I think, yes, we ought to celebrate it, celebrate Lagos at 50, and it's done. We've done it, and it's done. It concludes today or yesterday. But at the end of the day, we are glad. And to say, Almighty God, thank you. A lot of elderly people will cast their mind back at how Lagos used to be some 50 years ago. And then they see the wonderful changes that's occurred. And to see that even in this present administration, the kind of leadership we've had have been very proactive at making sure that the state grows in leaps and bounds. Most importantly, I'm glad that we grow geometrically as against arithmetically that you would expect in many states, many African states, as it were.
In a nutshell, without good law, there won't be good governance. I am representing Lagos State House of Assembly, Oshodi constituency to be precise. Without good law being emanated from the House of Assembly, governance will be awful. So, this pari passu. We in Lagos State, the three arms of government, they are working symbiotically. So, the legislature is working, the executive is working, and the judiciary is also working. So the work of one does not disrupt the other. So everything goes in line together. So the development of Lagos State, the development of Lagos State has, been originated from the collaboration of the three arms of government in Lagos State.
When you talk of the various laws that we have enacted in Lagos State House of Assembly, you will have seen that we are the wheel that propel the movement of Lagos State. When you talk of economy, we have bills that we have really passed and government have assented to. The economic development of Lagos State is not without the contribution of assembly members. When we talk of the social development too, we have really added more impetus to social upliftment of Lagos State. Many on education, on infrastructural development. Without legislature, executive cannot live, and we work hand in hand with together to move Lagos State forward.
We'll also bring you the colorful gathering led by the Speaker of the House, Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, where residents of Agege celebrated Lagos in a very special way.
We
we have demonstrated that Lagos State is a state of inclusion in which all law-abiding, hard-working, and honest persons will hand their fair rewards. So let us be merry, even as we rededicate ourselves to the journey towards greater prosperity that lies ahead of us. Let our communities help our local council development area and our local government area to rise to the challenge of greater Lagos of our dream.
In Agege especially, I must tell you, we have the highest number of Hausas in Lagos State as residents in Agege, and you can see them. You can see the love, you can see the union, you can see the togetherness, the oneness. That is all we preach. That is what we are going to continue to preach. That is what celebrations like this are aimed at, to foster that relationship between communities, tribal communities, between local government structure, local structures. And so I would always want to preach that everyone, irrespective of your tribe or religion.
What Lagos State has achieved in the last 50 years is worth celebrating. Lagos State has been very lucky. We've been lucky with our leaders. We've had leaders who really are cerebral and they really know what they are doing. So Lagos is like a mini Nigeria. In fact, Lagos is, I can say, is even performing more than all the other states in Nigeria. I can say that for a fact. So it's something that is worth celebrating.
With that, we've come to the end of the program for this week. We thank you for staying with us. Till I see you again next week, I am Abimbola Gbede.